Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to another Irish stew video where I stew, where I talk about a bunch of things that are on my mind, a bunch of things that have caught my attention. I am terminally online, as the kids would say. I'm online a lot, and also paying attention to the world and the bookish world and everything else all the time. So I can generate whole new topics of interest every day if I want to. I just didn't think it would be of interest to you. And yet, a lot of you say that not only do you like these videos, but that you watch longer than the required 60 seconds, which is kind of amazing. So what we do is we break it down by the world, and then the U.S., and then general YouTube, then BookTube, and then me, and see what is on the mind of a lonely old shut-in today. Unfortunately. The Nazi Elon Musk is going to come up in a couple of categories this time around, which is a little bit, I would rather it not be true, but still, like for instance, when we're talking about world news, if we talk about world news in what used to be referred to as the Anglosphere, well, that would be the visit of Donald Trump to the UK. Amidst large protests, the protests aren't nearly as large as they should be. No protest has been nearly as large as it should be, which kind of gives you the writing on the wall. But there was another protest that was larger than any of the others, and it was an extreme far-right protest in favor of Donald Trump. In fact, if anything, protesting him for being too mild. You may have seen this. If you're in the UK, you might have seen it in the papers, mainly because of a figure named Tommy Robinson. But the Nazi Elon Musk was also involved. He called in via Zoom or whatever tech he was using. It's really bad tech for the richest man in the world who owns a tech company and prides himself on his tech prowess. It's an ongoing mystery to me why he always looks so terrible in his called-in Zoom conferences or whatever. But he called in and talked to Tommy Robinson and incited civil violence repeatedly in speech that, were he a normal citizen saying it on YouTube in the UK, would already have him arrested and fined. It is against the law to say what he said to Tommy Robinson in that Zoom chat that they had in front of thousands of Robinson's followers. And in that chat, the Nazi Elon Musk incited Tommy Robinson's followers to violence. And did one of those dumb ketamine roars of his, which has no purpose other than violence. It's meant to make the crowd roar mindlessly. And what do you do when you're roaring mindlessly? You attack the nearest thing. You attack the nearest brown thing. I have no idea why a writ has not been issued for him. I have no idea why lawmakers, as far as I know, no lawmaker in the UK has said, don't come to London or we'll arrest you. I have no idea. I haven't heard any protest from the Nazi Elon Musk trying to disassemble another country, as he tried to do to this one and is still doing to this one. But that of course made the news because it was a rather open demonstration of a point that I have made a few times to a few different people in the UK, and none of them wanted to hear it. When I talk about the absolute inevitability of Nigel Farage winning a prime ministership in a landslide based exclusively on a campaign of race hatred. I said that's not only a likely thing, that is absolutely inevitable. That is going to happen. And he's going to be helped by not only Tommy Robinson, but also by the Nazi Elon Musk. And like many people have commented on these kinds of events, whether they're happening in America or in the UK, it's all happening in front of us. There's very little that's clandestine that we have to talk about here. It's all being done in the open because these evil men have realized, they have tested the boundaries of what they could do publicly and realized there aren't any. They've realized that there's no such thing as public outrage. All there is people stuck on their phone. Now we'll pause for a commercial interruption. That's why this is all happening in the open, because the people who are doing it have realized they don't need to hide it. But that's that will do for the world for now. And then we can move on to the U.S. And the U.S. Again, there are two. There are three U.S. stories that we could talk about. One of them does involve the Nazi Elon Musk, and that is the huge damage that he did to the health agencies, to the infrastructure of health agencies in this country. And that's important because we're coming up, here in the United States, we're coming up on cold and flu season, what is typically called cold and flu season, where all the damage that has been done to all of that superstructure will become obvious. It'll be unavoidable. But we can leave that for another segment. Instead we can talk about two things. One large scale, one small scale. The small scale thing is as negative gets, and that is Minneapolis, which has been soaked in violence lately. Soaked in it. You don't want to give any credit to the fascists who are using urban violence as a very thin pretext to tighten fascistic control on the military. You don't want to give any credence to that. And I don't give any credence to that. Something's definitely wrong in Minneapolis. You just have to look at the week that Minneapolis has had to know that something is really wrong in Minneapolis. No idea what that is. No idea what it will be said that it is. But believe you me, fascist commentators are noticing. They're noticing the headlines that have been coming out of Minneapolis for a week now. And they're capitalizing on them. So that's the small thing, is that the last 10 days in Minneapolis have been an unmitigated bloodbath. And including lots and lots of innocent people dying or being wounded. But the larger story isn't large yet. It is going to become large. It's. I don't think many people are going to talk about it until it takes its next step. But it involves the current rubber stamp Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, a man who was so hungry for ambition that he was willing to kiss the ring of a man who mocked him and accused his father of being involved in the assassination of JFK. Like everybody else, like every other sycophant that Trump insulted and humiliated openly in public, he went crawling right back. And he got a temporary reward, which is Secretary of State. In his mind, according to people in his orbit, he is thinking not of Secretary of State, but of the U.S. presidency, which is insane. That is simply insane. I'm not calling Marco Rubio insane. JFK Jr. or RFK Jr. is insane. It's not that he has ideas I don't agree with. He's clinically insane. But Marco Rubio is not insane, except to the extent that mindlessly ambitious men always are, because he's not going to be president. That position is no longer open. So that's never going to happen. But he's in the news because he recently mentioned legislation that he would like to push through Congress in order to let the State Department revoke or refuse a visa for people who rejoice at the death of Charlie Kirk, MAGA influencer Charlie Kirk, who rejoice at his death or even aren't dismayed by his death, people who are just neutral about it. You have to have joined the MAGA grief train, or Marco Rubio would like to be able to rescind your visa or deny you one. And the reason that that's important, he also, obviously this legislation has also happened in regard to you voicing anti-Israel sentiment. If you have raised your voice on any of your social media, which they'll search at the airport on your devices, if you've raised your voice in condemnation of Israel's genocide in Gaza, you could have your visa revoked at any time, or you could be denied a visa. And the reason why this isn't big yet, the reason why this is a tiny story so far, is because people aren't they aren't hearing the right words. They're hearing, well, I guess if somebody was cheering on TikTok when Charlie Kirk, a 31-year-old man, a husband and a father, was shot dead at a public event, if they were cheering on TikTok, well, that's pretty gross. That's pretty gross behavior. It's not in any way whatsoever even faintly close to grounds for revoking a visa, but it is kind of gross behavior. None of us can like that behavior, even if we think this is a tiny bit of overreach. And that is someone hearing the story wrong. If you think that when you hear this story, you're hearing it wrong. Instead, you should be hearing that the State Department is now going to revoke your visa or deny you a visa if you criticize the leader, the boss, Donald Trump. The key is to substitute whatever else is involved, Israel or Charlie Kirk. You can't have your visa revoked for having an opinion about something. Period. If the State Department is pushing forward legislation that says you can, well, then the end goal of that legislation is that you can't criticize the boss. And you can't ever have criticized him on your social media, anywhere that can be found on devices that can be searched. And the reason why that will be a big story if it becomes big is because it echoes what I have been telling you for 9 years now. For 9 years, I have been saying there is no such thing as a fascism that leaves you alone. There's no such thing. No fascist regime, whether they were called it that or not, has ever done that. The whole point is that they don't leave you alone. I don't care where you are. In rural North Carolina, I've got a farm, it's down a road from anybody. I'm minding my own business. It doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a fascism that leaves you alone. I might add here parenthetically that if you watch the rise of a fascism and don't object to it because you're counting on being left alone, you're a fascist. But it's not going to happen anyway. You're still going to do the salute. You're still going to wear the hat. You're still going to do it. It's still going to happen. They'll find you. If the post office can find you, then the regime can find you. And the point that I've been making along those lines to you for 9 years is that there's going to come a point when the gates swing closed with the rifles pointed in, not out. And they're not going to be pointed at brown people. They're going to be pointed at anyone who doesn't love Donald Trump. They're going to be pointed at you. This is that. So again, I will repeat. I know it's pointless. I know it's absolutely useless. But again, I will repeat. You should realize your assets and get yourself and your loved ones out of this country while you still can. Because once those gates swing closed, you won't be able to. You won't be able to. You might say, well, I've never in my life criticized the regime or the boss. You have to call him that. I've never criticized him. Okay. Well, first of all, again, that makes you a fascist. But second, you don't have an enemy? You don't have a coworker who hates your guts who's going to say that you did for $1,500? You think if Stephen Miller drags $1,500 through your workplace, he's not going to buy someone who will say that you did? And that's all they need. These things only ever happen in one way. And when they start to talk about denying visas, when the gates swing closed, it will be too late. It will be too late. You will have waited too long. Now, I know that that's falling on deaf ears, and I know that it's also falling on the ears of a whole bunch of would-be Rosa Parks or Che Guevaras, and all of that is nonsense. And I would think that if you can't be moved by anything that you're looking around you, that any of this stuff that where you read Richard Evans' book, The Rise of the Third Reich, and like I and many other people have said, the only difference is the proper names. If you can look at that and still not be moved, the one thing I would think would move you would be all of you who are parents. Okay, if you are a complacent blob, I'm staring at my phone all day long. As long as nobody puts their hand between me and my phone, I'm okay. It's just the Anschluss. It's just talk. It doesn't involve me. Look, I've got a lot to worry about. If you're that self-absorbed, I would think the one thing that would move parents would be consigning their children to a life of slavery. But surely that would move parents. It's not just you who won't be able to leave. It's your kids who won't be able to leave, and their kids. Anyway, the American side of things, the larger story, which is not yet a story, is that the government is now increasingly talking about vetting whether or not you are allowed to leave the country. And any of the sops that you are giving yourself, if you're a violent critic of the regime, if you're brown, if you're foreign-born, how you think, at this late stage, how you think those you can hide behind, I have no idea. No idea at all. It must be just mental desperation. That's all. So anyway. That is my U.S. my two U.S. subjects. One is that the trite line from the man who would become King Edward VIII was something must be done about Minneapolis. Believe you me, it has gone onto the radar of fascist forces and also far-right talkers of all kinds. It's now on their radar because it's unbelievably conspicuous. A 2-day period doesn't go by when there aren't multiple homicides in Minneapolis, and that's bad. And the larger thing, which is that the regime has now started talking about stopping you from leaving the country. They haven't put it that way, and maybe that's allowed you, in your innocence, to not hear it that way. But the regime has now started talking about that. Anyway, the next thing from that story, that is not a story yet, will be the regime talking about whether or not you're allowed to vote and how you should vote. And are you gonna waste your vote? You're not gonna waste your vote, are you? Etc. But anyway, we'll move on. Let's move on to happier grounds here. At least at a little happier grounds. We'll move on to YouTube. Two YouTube channels, videos that I want to recommend to you that are both fascinating. They are both by YouTubers who do scripted videos, and I don't know, they're really good at it. I guess that maybe that is the graded scale here for me, is that some people who do scripted videos are not good at it. It sounds scripted. They're not good at reading scripts. You have to be to do a scripted video effectively. I don't know. I don't mean to cast criticism on these people. I would be lost without my script writing team. but these two are painless as far as scripted videos go. And I guess they do fact heavy videos, so maybe they need a script for that. I don't know why you wouldn't just remember what you wanted to say, but then again, I haven't been taking mood altering medication since I was 4 years old. So the first channel that I want to mention is Council of Geeks. We'll leave a link to these down below. And Council of Geeks is a wonderfully thoughtful channel, usually about pop culture issues, but this video was about AI, so-called generative AI. Starting off with a point that is not often enough made about it, which is that the people who purvey it and who are contracting it with the government don't actually all the time know how it works or why it works the way it works. But this video is about AI hallucinating, is what we call it, what the industry calls it, where AI will suddenly go off the rails and start making things up, which in a human would be called lying, or at least bullshitting. But it renders AI untrustworthy in a lot of fundamental ways that a lot of people who have now jumped on the AI bandwagon don't see or don't want to see. And this video lays it out really well. Some of it, anyway. I could have stood for the video to be 3 times as long. And then the other channel is Rebecca Watson, who some of you might know as the Skep Chick. And her video is about the aforementioned RFK Jr. and COVID vaccines. And what the status of them, who can get them, how you're going to be able to get them, and by extension other vaccines. Rebecca Watson has a large degree of anger towards the fascist takeover of this country, but she seems to reserve a special pointedness of anger for Robert F. Kennedy Jr., for the corruption of the sciences. That seems to be especially pointed with her, and it's really interesting to listen to. I mentioned before on this channel that I was at my local pharmacy to get medicine for my little bean, and saw an elderly gentleman walk up and ask for his COVID shot, and was told the CDC doesn't allow us to give it to you anymore. And he walked away just befuddled. And that was in early August. That was in the month of August, or early September. It's not flu and cold season yet. It will be soon. Anyway, both of those videos, I will leave links to them down below. They're both really good, well worth your time. Actually, both channels are. Then we can move on to BookTube, which will be the return of fun. So, for instance, we have Lauren at Books at the Bottom of the Stairs, a wonderful, cozy, come visit with me channel, the type that I just love. And this video has books in it. It's about books that won't crush your soul, but it also has the most non-tech channel unboxing that I have ever seen. She gets a new iPad and a new case with a keyboard and a new power cord and whatnot, and it decides to do an unboxing instead of just telling you. Decides to do an unboxing, and it is the exact opposite of all the polished tech channels that I watch, where it's what the heck is this? What the heck is this? How's this gonna work? Oh, why does this look this way? It looks kind of funny, doesn't it? It's just delightful. Just absolutely delightful. You'll like the book section too, but the iPad section is worth watching. Then we have what else can we do for book 2? Well, Jeff's Cave of Cool Books did a video that I'll link to down below, a really good video on Borak, Robert E. Howard's lameoid creation. I don't call him Borak lameoid, the most lameoid, because of course that goes to Solomon Kane, but nevertheless, it's Sumerian September. We are celebrating Robert E. Howard, so let's not be critical. Plenty of people out there like Borak. But Jeff's Cave of Cool Books does a great video on Borak. It's just terrific. So I will leave a link to that down below. And then we get to me. We finish up with the section of me, which is largely going to be books. I mean, I really don't do anything else. My entire life revolves around my little dog and books, and almost nothing else. So I guess we could talk about books. Like, for instance, there's a BookTube event that's going on for September, Shorty September, where we read shorter books, something fewer than 200 pages, fewer than 150 pages. And I had one all set out to talk about today for Shorty September. I had a book all picked out, a canonical thing when it comes to short books, something that you've all read or all heard about. And that plan was upended because I got a short book in the mail. And I thought, well, okay, dip your toe into this. It doesn't come out until December. So dip your toe into it, that's all. But it's one of my favorite living authors, and it was terrific. I ended up reading the whole thing. It's this. It's a 130-page biography of Queen Elizabeth II by David Kennedy, who's been on this channel. He hasn't never been on this channel, but his books have been featured here many times. I have read everything he's written. I love him. I think his work is fantastic. And this thing was terrific. He's written a lot of occasional prose about the Queen. I have bits and pieces from him on many different books. But this is a wise and practiced overview of this remarkable reign. In a form that is short enough for you to read. It was incredible. I loved it. Just loved it. It doesn't come out until December, but if any of you who are House of Windsor fans, as I am, pre-order this thing. You're going to want to read it. You're going to want to put it on the shelf next to biographies that are 5 times as long. And a large part of that is going to be due to the skill of this author. I swear. Part of me when I was reading this was wishing that he would make it longer. But there's no need. There really isn't any. I love longer biographies, but there really isn't any need. This was terrific on its own. What a book. So it takes over for Shorty September. And I'll be talking about it again. I'll be reviewing it come December, but I'll be talking about it again. And then the other book that I could mention is also a new release. I'm not sure if it's out yet. Some of you might have seen the YouTube appearances, social media appearances of Bishop Robert Barron, a kindly-faced guy in his middle ages who... He does YouTube videos. He also does Instagram videos where he's very accessible. He's very friendly, talking about and demystifying various Roman Catholic feast days or holy days or whatnot. And he has a book. He has a new book called Catholicism. That is a celebration of Catholicism. That is all as it's meant to be. But I'm sorry. He has a good, friendly prose style. His prose style, I think this is the first thing I've ever read by him, and his prose style matches his video style perfectly. So it was companionable to read, but it was an alternate history. It was an alternate reality of the Catholic Church. And it shouldn't be. Damn it. It shouldn't be. For at least 70 years, the Roman Catholic Church was the biggest rape gang in human history. Carefully coordinated, extensively funded, massively shielded by the church itself. Not a question of a diocese in Duluth discovering that one of the priests in one of the churches is ruthlessly preying on young boys, raping them one after another by taking them into his confidence, using his authority given to him by the church. Not just that, but that the powers that be in Duluth are going to notify the church, and the church is going to move him to a different parish in a different state without warning any of the parents in that parish of what they're doing. That didn't happen just once. That happened hundreds, maybe even thousands of times. We'll never know the full extent of it. And it is one of the greatest institutional crimes of them all, of any institution, in any human endeavor, in any human society, at any point in human history. If you're going to write about Catholicism, you should write about that. Until time grinds to a halt, you should write about that. I don't want to hear about charity work. I don't want to hear about the glories and the mysteries of what happens at the pulpit. I don't want to hear about any of that. I'm a little bit touchy on the subject, no pun intended, because of Cardinal Bernard Law, who was at the heart of the firestorm that broke the whole story here in Boston, and who was shielded for the rest of his life by the church. No apologies. No handing him over to the authorities in Boston, who very much requested him, send him back here, send him back to our jurisdiction. Not only not a no, but no answer at all. To Cardinal Bernard Law was 100% guilty and knew it. He knew enormous amounts about the evils being done in his jurisdiction, and he let them happen. He helped them. It's just, well, you can see already that Bishop Barron's book was never going to make any headway with me. I don't think it should make any headway with anybody. If you're going to write about the Roman Catholic Church in the present day, if any part of your book is in the present day instead of in ancient history, then you write about that. And I'm sorry, if you had a book planned on something else, too bad. Cancel it. Write about that. There's no moving past that. There's no moving on from that. There's no, well, aside from that, Mrs. Lincoln, how did you think of the performance? No. If it had been that one priest in Duluth, okay, sure, move on from that. Let's talk about the glory and majesty of the Catholic Church and its history. But it wasn't that one priest. It was thousands of priests. And tens of thousands of boys. So, I guess the book was a hard no for me from the beginning. I don't know what I was thinking, persevering with it. It could not have succeeded, and it didn't. So just books. I'd much rather end on a happy note, which is this thing. Do not miss this book. Do not miss this book. I think it comes out in December, and you shouldn't miss it. If you are like me, you've probably read a few biographies of Queen Elizabeth II. And I was wondering, when she died, I was wondering what the future of those biographies will be like. We haven't had it yet, despite the fact that some of them came out right away when the corpse was still warm. We haven't had that yet. We haven't had her in her historical context. This is the first. And what a tough act to follow. For its sobriety, for the clean strength of its prose. Just, we'll end on a good note. We'll end on a recommendation. I strongly recommend David Carradine's book on Queen Elizabeth II. Mark it, on your calendar. Pre-order it on Amazon. Make sure your library gets it. Make sure that they know that there's interest in this thing. Whatever you need to do to show some love to this book. So there you go. That is it for today. That is a very contentious Irish stew video. I'll try to remember to leave links to everything that is linkable. And I'll wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.